Hi, I am your host, Danielle Smith.
And my name's Danny Tivalu, and welcome to our podcast.
It's Glow Time.
We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Yugambeh and Komameri people, and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, acknowledging that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Okay, welcome everybody. We have a really cool guest chatting with us today. His name is Luke, based out in Sydney. Welcome, Luke.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we're so stoked. Now, Luke, you work in the environmental space, primarily around sustainability. You're really big on zero waste living, which I think is so cool. You have your own business called Sustainably Vandy, which helps people, better live with sustainability and ethical choices in mind. So to start with, could you just tell everyone a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, why you do it?
Yeah, thanks so much, Danny. Thanks for the great intro as well. So my philosophy is all about reducing impact. I've always wanted to find a way to do that in my career, and also a way to do that in my personal life as well. So that's kind of why I started Sustainably Vandy, which at the moment is kind of just serving as, a bit of an information hub, and I hope to continue to expand that further. But as you said, very big on the zero waste lifestyle. The fact I always like to flaunt a bit is only take the bin out, the landfill bin out once a year, which always gets people talking and asking questions. It's not as hard as you think, but I'm sure we'll go into that as well.
Yeah.
Wow, my mind's already blown by that.
Yeah, and what inspired you to kind of start going down this zero waste lifestyle?
Well, Danny, it's quite a tale.
Well, we're ready.
I've always been, let's say, very curious. And I think, like many people, I watched Inconvenient Truth when it came out in 2005. I guess that kind of sparked my interest for the environment. But it's still, at that point, I was kind of like, just recycle, and that's pretty much what you can do. And then when I was in my, late teens, early 20s, I think that was the time a lot more of these, documentaries started coming out about different topics and things. And like many uni students, I lived off 2-minute noodles and, didn't have any real care for my body at all. And I was studying film at the time, and we had to watch a lot of documentaries in general, just for the course and things. But I just watched a lot in my own time as well. And like many people who then progressed to a plant-based diet, I watched Cowspiracy, and I remember turning it off and being like, oh no, I'm gonna have to give up animal products. I didn't want to, and I just knew that I couldn't stand by the fact that I wanted to do my part for the environment, if that was the case. And the timing was quite funny, because I was living in Melbourne by myself, and I was not healthy. I was eating Wheel of Brie a night kind of thing, horrendous diet. So I knew something had to change. I'd really put on a lot of weight. So I kind of took this knowledge of the environment and how our diets can impact not only ourselves, but our earth as well, and really tried to kind of get myself healthy and learn as much as I could at the same time. And through that, I learned a lot more about health, but also about our impact on the planet as well. So that's the short story on how I kind of got to where I am today. It was just kind of obsessive. It was like, zero waste and minimalism. What else can I absorb?
Yeah. It's cool. They all kind of seem to overlap, and weave with it amongst one another. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I always say it's a triple win, because even if you just look at something at plant-based diets, arguably very good for yourself, very good for the planet, and very good for your pocket as well. So it's kind of something that even if you're only doing it a little bit, it's going to be, as long as you're being conscious, it's going to be quite good for a lot of different sectors.
So say if someone's just started out being quite curious about wanting to make some sort of change and, you know, don't really know what to do, what would be the first thing that someone could introduce to start on this journey to help the planet?
Yeah, so there's definitely quite a few areas you can start, and I would say start in the area that you're potentially already interested in. Like for me, I've always been interested in, well, I've always loved food, but like that kind of extension of just wanting to eat as much as possible, like really extended into, well, what can I eat as much as possible that is good for me? So the diet, I think for me, was always going to be something of great interest. And, you know, but some other people might be really interested in gardening, for example. So if you get into composting and you're growing your own food and reducing your food waste, that's a massive way that you can reduce your impact. If you're really active and you love cycling and things like that, perhaps, you know, transport is the area that you can make a reduction, because like many of these larger topics and problems that we have to deal with, climate change is very much, there's no silver bullet solution. It's about doing the most you can and the most you feel comfortable doing across a variety of areas, not just one thing.
So everyone doing one small little bit to help a greater cause. So just doing what you can.
Exactly. I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed with, oh my goodness, there's so many things. And I think a lot of these things can be quite triggering, especially things like diets and cars. No one wants to be told, oh, you can't have a steak and you can't drive your Mustang, things like that, you know. So I think it's very much about finding a way to ease people in. And, you know, if it's just starting out with recycling or taking your bags to the supermarket, those things, I think very much, if you're already looking for ways to make an impact, kind of act as like a gateway drug. You end up just being like, can I do more and more, and just add things to your skill set.
And I think that's with anything, like any new skill that you try and learn or any change you make, it starts with just one little step. And then that you get really good at that. And then you are thirsty for more and want to do more and do better. And so, yeah, I think that's a great way to approach it. So I would love to circle back around with your statement around only taking your landfill bin out once
I thought
a year.
you might.
Quite gobsmacked by that. Please share, because I would love to be able to do
Oh,
this.
you want the tips and tricks? I can definitely share them.
Yes,
So
please. I won't tell anyone. I
please
promise.
tell
No, you want to tell everyone. That's
Yeah, no, we do want to tell anyone.
Exactly. All the thousands and thousands of listeners out there, listen up, get your pens ready. So I think really the waste thing came out of like two main areas. So I was traveling and I was just reading a lot of books, which, mind you, is very unusual for me. I like to think that I read a lot of books, but I really don't. I watch a lot of TV. But anyway, at this time, I had gotten a Kindle to be very environmentally conscious about my paper use, and downloaded a bunch of books. And so one of the books I've read was Everything Remains by the Minimalists. You guys might have heard of them. They have a massive blog. They have a movie now, which I ended up watching as well. And that really inspired me to want to reduce not so much my impact on the planet. That wasn't as much carbon footprint reduction at that point. It was more about reducing what I own, but also being conscious about consumption, because I hadn't really thought about the fact that, you know, oh, I want a new phone. I want one, but do I need one? And how getting a new phone, the impacts that has down the supply chain and on the planet and things like that. And then I also read A Zero Waste Home by Bea Johnson, who is kind of the woman who started the whole zero waste movement. And I was amazed by that book. I feel like anyone who's even remotely interested about waste reduction, definitely give that a read, because some of the things that she was saying, how she kind of, as an example, all the cleaning products in the house, like got them down to, she just made everything herself. I was like, that's possible? That sounds great. And then you have like little graphs about all the savings and all these different things. So those are the two main things that inspired me. In terms of actually doing it yourself, well, I always say the best place to start is by what we call diversifying your waste streams, so splitting them up essentially. So you've got your landfill waste, and they should be the things that you really can't do anything about. You've got your recycling, and depending on your council area, you might have paper, glass, separated, that kind of thing. But doing food scraps in whatever way you can, whether that's taking them to your community garden, composting in a tumbler in your own garden, electric composter, whatever, that's a massive impact in terms of the environment, but also reducing your waste. And then as many people have learnt through Warm Waste from the ABC with Craig Rucastle, the soft plastics at Coles and Woolies, when I found out about that, when I watched that program, what must have been like maybe 5 years ago now, I was astonished that I didn't know about this already, but two, that it's not, plastered everywhere, because soft plastics make up such a big portion of the bin. So after I did those two things, I was like, wow, it's so low. Like, how much lower can I get it? And it was kind of just following B. Johnson's book, honestly, like making your own products at home, swapping things out for other compostable items, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of, I'd start with the food waste and soft plastics, see how inspired you feel from there, and then see, okay, what other things can I reduce in my life?
Yeah, I love the soft plastics. I really feel that's such a game changer for recycling and like waste reduction at home. Yeah,
absolutely. And they do, I think there's definitely concerns always around recycling, especially after, China stopped accepting a lot of our waste. There's always concerns of how much actually gets recycled and things like that. And even if a portion of our waste that we try to recycle is going to landfill, because let's be honest, at the end of the day, so many things get thrown in the recycling bin. It just boggles my brain of how they can actually sort a lot of these items.
Yeah,
but it really is about instilling those habits and making sure you're doing the right thing where you can to support the infrastructure.
Yeah, no, one of my pet peeves so much, like when I'm walking the dogs along the street, if I see someone who's like put the wrong things in a recycling bin, it just like drives me bonkers. So I'm like, oh my God, you're compromising everyone's recycling by like not doing it properly. Which I know comes back to education. I think there's like a big, and again, local councils as well and state governments, that if more people could be educated and enthused about recycling properly as well, just to start with their like traditional recycling bin, that would be a real game changer.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really cool to like get into the like do something in schools, like as younger kids, and so start instilling it, because they're the next generation coming up. So starting up with doing, even if it's just like after school activities or something, or even instilling it in like a little part of the curriculum, because then that's all that they know, and then they start, it's a way to make the change because they haven't developed these bad habits.
Yeah. Well, sustainability is actually a part of ACARA. However, then it would also factor in, like, flow down to how much the school values teaching sustainability and environmentally friendly practices, and then also how much the teacher who is delivering the content values that. Because like I love Warren Waste. I used to make my class watch it every single year, and I'd be like, they're going to start like we recycle soft plastics in the classroom. I'd have like TerraCycle collection bins for like stationery, you can send it off, and we did some programs like that. But it does come down to, you have to be prepared to invest your own time, and as well, like if like you do get to be a role model, and then hopefully the kids take that information back home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it would be cool though for like for the government for it to be a part of it, because it is I suppose a big problem within the world of waste and everything. So it would be cool for that to be them to just have it a part of their curriculum. I think would be that's what we can manifest, or that could be a little project.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I see that kind of stuff, like you said, Dan. I know you work as a teacher, and I used to work as an assistant educator in a high school, when it's exactly what you're saying is, you need the drive at the school. And that's what I'm kind of working on with my full-time job with Climate Clever. I'll give the little Climate Clever spiel.
Nice.
So Climate Clever is basically a green tech startup based in WA. So I work in the New South Wales team with my colleague Tess. And the company basically has an app that allows you to helps communities to reduce their carbon footprint and save money on their utility bills. There's a whole bunch of other things I can go into, but I work with the schools within that, within Climate Clever, and look after the school app. So there's a business app, home app, and there's also a government program as well. But exactly what, exactly what you're saying, Danny, is that, you know, I talk to, you know, teachers and principals every day, and a lot of the time you've got really passionate educators who really want to see this happen, but it's a question of time or it's a question of budget or both. And this is why there's, you know, in WA, which is really exciting to see, there's a big push to see further funding in schools, but to support additional positions for staff so they can actually, so there's like a staff member who can look after sustainability, because currently the only schools that have that is either a teacher who's really putting in extra hours which they don't have time for, or schools which have extra income that can actually afford to have those positions available. And I know that at one point in New South Wales, there's talk about having additional staff members to relieve a lot of the duties for teachers, so they don't have to do as much emailing, phone calls and that kind of thing, to free up a lot of hours for them so they could pursue these kind of things. So yeah, it's just about, you know, I always say, you know, teachers are one of the most important jobs on the planet, and they're so undervalued. So, you know, I think the more support we can give to schools, and like you say, education is the key, the better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that statement. It's they have such an impact on children. They spend so much time with them, and if you get a really good teacher, that can really distinguish certain paths that you take as well. So yeah, I really think that they are undervalued.
Yeah, it would be cool. I think like you really hit the nail on the head with what you said, Luke. Like, it's all about, it comes down to time and budget for a lot of schools, and it's not, I suppose it's not an easy fix, because I suppose at one point, hopefully in the future, like having a sustainability or an environmental officer, or someone who's like just, I suppose, overlooking each business and going, what can we do that improves this or makes people a little bit more conscious, becomes more normal in each business and each workplace. And hopefully we're moving towards that. But I suppose these conversations and the more people who care about it and do something about it also really helps.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a possibility though, because we, you know, now look at a lot of businesses have like wellness coordinators or wellness managers, and they didn't always have that. So, and now people are taking a real interest in like stress and health, nutrition. And so I think it's just a matter of time before something like the environment, you know, sustainability officer gets introduced. I think we just have to keep having these conversations and just believing that it'll happen, and keep having these conversations.
100%. It's about culture change, and we'll get there eventually. Just hopefully it's in time.
Yeah.
So what's your big vision for Climate Clever and the stuff that you're doing as well? What would you consider success?
Yeah, great question. I think, like I said, funding, for me as a schools coordinator, it's obviously the aspect of the business I work most closely with and have put in the most time with. Definitely more funding in schools, I think, specifically for more staff positions to look at these things. But in terms of Climate Clever as a whole, man, I mean, I'd love to see just the company like continue to grow, because that just means bigger impact. And we recently sat down as a company. It's quite a small tech startup. I think we're only about maybe 12 staff or so. But we sat down as a company, which was a really nice way to do it, and looked at our values and how we wanted to really craft the vision for the company moving forward. And it was nice to see that everyone was really on the same page. But the biggest thing that came out of those meetings was impact. And it's like, how can we have an impact, the biggest impact possible? And so traditionally, Climate Clever has always been a paid application. Even the Home app has always been a paid application, and schools has always been a paid application. There are ways that schools could get grants and also discounts through local governments, but it was still a paid application. And so we kind of decided, well, we can't have the biggest impact we want unless there's a free version of the app. So this year we will be releasing a free version of Climate Clever across all platforms for businesses, schools, and homes, which for me is super exciting because that means every school in the country can download the app and play around with it. And if they really like it, they can jump up to a paid tier. If they don't want to pay, they can still work on it themselves and still have access to our community. So me as a school coordinator at the company is super exciting to see that kind of expansion happening. And I think it's just going to allow for more lesson plans and fun meetings that I can have with the kids and teachers to really grow, which is going to be great.
And within like,
that's so cool.
Yeah. And within like the schools that you work with, so like what does that look like when you partner with a school or a school signs up to Climate Clever?
Yeah, so a school signs up via the website, then they get access to the platform. Previously, they would have been a meeting with me, but that's going to change more to kind of a group demo scenario going forward. And a school then has like a bit of an onboarding process, a few steps to go through, basically like a tutorial. And then they need to get access to their bills. So this is like the crux of the data for our software platform. So they plug in all the bills into the app. We've also got automatic billing coming soon, which is going to be great. And all the teachers are like, woohoo, less data entry.
Less admin.
Exactly. So they plug in the bills, the app then does its thing and then calculates the carbon footprint and the total cost. Then teachers can, with their students, I should preface, it is very much designed for student use. It's not something that the business team just uses and the students never see. It's designed to be a very fun and easy interface, so students can play around, they can have their own accounts, their own usernames, all that kind of thing. And so then they use what we call the action library. There's basically a huge list of things to do in there, and you just tick them off as you go. So if it's turning off lights after lesson time, getting the air cons turned off, we do what we call a holiday switch off, which is always really exciting for schools because they can get everything switched off, and you'd be amazed at the things that get left on over the Christmas holidays in particular. And then they come back and they see all these savings and reduction in pollution as well. And there's also an audit function and some other things in there. But basically, for any school, it's whatever they put in, they get out of it. And we've had some schools save thousands and thousands of dollars, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
so cool that you can see that as well, and like just giving them that tangible evidence of this is how I've contributed. Wow, this is exciting. And then I think that inspires because you're connecting to an emotion as well as seeing what you've personally assisted in making a change.
I really wish I'd kept like a list of the greatest things all the kids had said over my time at Climate Clever, because some of the things they come out with are absolutely amazing, the cutest things ever. The best one to date.
Do you have an example?
Yes, the best one to date was a kid at a school in South Australia. They had just signed up and I had a Zoom session with them. And he was like, we're going to be using Climate Clever for our project. We're super excited. The project's only a month's time. I know a month isn't enough time to save the world, but we can certainly try. I was like, yes, that's
so adorable. Hey, it's never too late to start by collecting all the stuff that they say. You can make like a little like montage of all the stuff that they say, a little voice recordings.
No, totally. I feel like I've got the key ones in my brain, so I'm going to write them all down and, we'll make up a cool, montage video or something.
Yeah.
And so if a school that is listening, how do they get in contact with you if they want to, if a teacher wants to try and get you involved in their school? What's the process?
So just go to climateclever.org and then click on the schools page. There's schools right at the top, and then just register your interest and you'll get a phone call from me very, very quickly. That being said, things will be changing, like I said, as the free model becomes available. So when that is available, literally just sign up and have a play around, and then you can decide with your school if you want to go for the paid version or stay on the free version. And if you are on the free version, you still have access to a bunch of features, and you also still have access to our community meetups, which is super fun.
What are the community meetups?
So every term we have a schools meetup where we get a guest speaker, or sometimes we have a feature school or a feature student. And we basically go over any updates that we have on our side at Climate Clever, but it's a great chance for all the schools to share how they're going with the platform. So each school has a minute or so to give their update, say how they've been tracking with the app, any savings, they can announce those. And we always encourage students to come along to those as well, and to share their ideas and things like that. And we've had a bunch of kids with great ideas for other meetings as well. One kid was like, oh, it'd be great if we just had just students. And I was like, yes, that's a good idea. No teachers allowed. So I think we're going to do one of those as well.
How fun.
Yeah.
Now I'd love to circle back around with a comment you were making about, compost and doing a bit. So if someone lives in, say, an apartment and they don't have land, they don't have grass area, is there any hot tips that you can give to help someone that wants to make a difference and do something, but just doesn't have access to the, I suppose, backyard?
Yes. So depending on your apartment situation, so I used to live in an apartment, I had something called the Urban Composter, which is really a fancy name for a big bucket with a lid. And the main thing is it's got like basically a drainage system. So it separates like your food, and then the liquid goes down the bottom. You can use that on your garden or just boil it up and get rid of it, whatever. But I would take that to the community garden that was just around the corner. I know that's very fortunate for me that just happened to be there. If you don't have access to that, then what I would suggest is potentially looking at an electric composter. So these are kind of medium-sized appliances that could go under your sink, and they basically do the composting overnight and create these little, it dehydrates the food and creates these little wood chips, which you can then sprinkle in a garden or a pot plant or something. They are kind of expensive at the moment. They will come down in price, I'm sure. And if either of those is not an option, it kind of depends on your apartment layout. If you've got room for something like a small tumbler on your balcony, then that can be really cool. Once it's turned into compost or soil, you can then, if you've got nowhere to put it, like no common area gardens or anything, you can just get rid of the waste on, is it called share waste? There's a bunch of apps basically you can get rid of it. So those are the main three things. I would suggest reading my blog post on Climate Clever, but no more plugs.
No, please plug away. I think this is
no. Well, it was actually a selfish question because I live in an apartment, so it was obviously for the listeners. But I'm very inspired now to play my part in terms of food wastage. So thank you for that, and I'm gonna get Danny T to keep me accountable for that big bold statement that I'm gonna implement that.
I do think.
I feel like it's such a pillar. It should really be like a pillar of wellness, I think, in terms of environment and impact on nature, because, without the world, we won't exist. So we all focus on eating, movement, mental health. So I feel like this is the next thing that really needs to be introduced into terms of a pillar for wellness.
100%. I always say that you can't look after the environment till you look after yourself. Personal sustainability and earth sustainability go hand in hand.
They do. I love that.
Yeah, because I suppose like when you were walking us through like your journey to where you are right now, like I suppose making significant changes in your diet and what foods you chose to eat seemed to work hand in hand with then like being more environmentally conscious.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really just came about was because I was just super overweight, and then I just started running, and I started just cutting out what I considered to be not super necessary in my diet at the time, which, I was still very early days. Like I had a lot to learn in terms of nutrition, macronutrients, micronutrients, all that kind of thing. But it was very cool to realize that I was like, okay, well, I'm already a lot healthier, but I'm already, not that I'd been tracking at that time, but I could realize that my impact on the environment would have dropped substantially, because being on a plant-based diet is one of the biggest things you can do for the environment, I also argue it's one of the easiest in terms of just a quick change. But that being said, I know a lot of people, it can be very hard to change your diet for anything for any reason, whether that's cutting out gluten, you know, or doing FODMAP or something because you need to for a health reason. You know, no one likes being told they need to do a diet.
What do you think the food is that has the biggest impact on the environment?
Well, there's a couple of aspects to it, but basically because food is and agriculture is such a big industry, the first thing I guess to think about is how far your food potentially is traveling. That's why everyone's always says to support local when you can. But for example, if you look at animal products such as beef, a lot of natural environments and rainforests and things are cleared to make way for animals to graze, also just clear it to put crops in for those animals to eat. So a lot of the food we give to animals, we could give to ourselves, which when you think about it really sounds backwards. And then that food is only used to feed a very small portion of the planet. And, you know, these animals are all kept indoors, and then there's the travel mileage, there's the emissions that come from the animals themselves. And then the water use is absolutely obscene. You know, like one burger is 3,000 liters. I think a lot of people know. Yeah. Like, you know, it's when you think about how we've always been told, oh, you know, cut your showers and things like that. It's like, you know, cutting out even just beef, like even if you still eat, let's say, pork and chicken, that's massive in terms of reducing your emissions and your water use as well. I think we hear a lot about carbon footprints, but we don't talk nearly enough about water footprints, considering less than 1% of all the fresh water on the earth is accessible to us.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just blowing my mind. I'm speechless. That doesn't happen very often.
I should have said at the start, I'm the epitome of the vegan stereotype. You know, people always like, oh, you know you're talking to a vegan because they'll tell you within 2 minutes, which has happened here, but I don't mind. Education's the key, as we said before.
Yeah. Everyone has their own journey.
Exactly.
Yeah. I always love as well, like I really loved Arnie's quote when he like really encouraged the world, just like begin just slowly taking up being vegetarian 3 or 4 nights a week, and just maybe cutting meat out of a few meals. That can seem like
that's what I've started doing. Yeah, just like I don't eat meat every night. Like I have a couple of nights where I do just have some sort of like vegetarian dish, and it's tasty. I think you just have to be prepared and organized. I think that's the key.
Yeah, totally. Like once you get into the rhythm of it, it's super easy. And Danny, like you said, you know, no one wants to be told what to eat. It just needs to be, you know, a comfortable, you know, transition. And yeah, cutting a few things. Like I wrote a blog post about this for work, that not everyone, it's not like we all need to be vegan or something like that. We don't even all need to be vegetarian. It's just about being conscious of what we're eating and, you know, just reducing the impact. Even reducing the portion sizes is a big impact as well in terms of carbon emissions. So yeah, it's just, and I know people that, you know, they maybe not, my brother's a great example, and I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this. He is very aware about his environmental impact in terms of diet, but he does a lot of other things that, you know, are really great, which would definitely help balance that out. Like he grows his own food. He's very conscious about riding everywhere he can. So it's not about being a perfectionist in every single area, although I know I try to, but that's just to kind of prove that it's possible. You know, it's about, like, you know, walking the talk and just inspiring others to do so, not to, you know, do it out of fear or make them feel shitty about themselves.
And you also do it because you want to do it, not because someone's forcing you to do it. Whereas someone else's journey might be like, yeah, I'm not ready to take on the diet side of things, but I'm going to ride my bike everywhere, and I'm going to, you know, yeah, like your brother, grow my own things. And I think it's about finding the part that you can introduce into your life that inspires you and you don't resent it either. So you want to do it for the right reasons. And
yeah, exactly. You want to be proud and stand behind what you're doing. And I think that's the kind of thing that, inspires others to, maybe copy you, or even ask them questions about, oh, how did you do this? How did you do that? I'm a bit interested to make a change myself.
What do you think is you might not know this, we may have to Google it, but what's the average carbon footprint of an individual?
So I can't remember it globally, but for Australians, it's around 14 or 15 tons of carbon a year.
So that's like a lot of, if you visualize that, like how much is a ton truck? Like how many trucks would that be? That'd be quite a lot of.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I literally wrote, this is in a blog post about, what 1 ton looks like. I'll have to come back to you on that one, but it's a lot basically. I think for comparison, my carbon footprint a year, and keep in mind, this is someone who is in the industry, is about 4 tons. And I think for the planet to be on a pretty steady trajectory, it needs to be even lower than that. I think the average, I'd have to double check, the average carbon footprint globally is probably around 8, maybe lower than that.
Wow.
But we need to be around like 3 basically. And it's because we have nations like Australia, America, the UK with huge, insanely big, and China as well, insanely big carbon footprints for different reasons. So it's about, I always think that we are in such a privileged position, and we have so much knowledge, and we have so many amazing things at our fingertips. Therefore, we have a responsibility to do as much as we can, in terms of we're in a nation with so many opportunities. So many people don't have those opportunities, and we really need to be like, okay, we have more resources. We fly a lot more, and we don't even think about it. Like I flew up to the Gold Coast a few weeks ago, literally just for fun, like just to see some friends. And, one would argue, well, there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't know if it is a question of right and wrong. It's a question of, if I'm going to do that, what am I going to do to kind of offset, those actions, or at least bring awareness to the fact that like the majority of the Earth's population have never been on a plane. And like I go on planes all the time. So, thinking about how we can reframe that perspective and how that might change our actions.
Yeah, I really like what you said there. I think it's quite often we take the privilege we have living in like a developed country like for granted, because it's so easy to forget we're actually like, being the average Australian, you're one of like the wealthier people in the entire world. And then I suppose, like you just said before, like what responsibility then really comes with that?
Yeah, and it's, to be fair, I think it's something that people don't want to think about. And to a degree, I totally empathize with that, because there was something that I was reading recently. I don't know if it's called like bucket theory or something along those lines, but the premise is basically, let's say you've got a bucket full of water, and portions of the water are, family maybe takes up, maybe the bucket's 10 liters, and family takes up 2 liters, your job takes up 4 liters, blah blah blah. By the time you do all the average things for the average person, there's not much room at the top for like hobbies, let alone like global issues. So I kind of understand that people just want to turn off and not think about it, but at the same time, I think we have a responsibility to think about it, because we have such comfortable lives in perspective to the rest of the world. So I think, we need to be thinking about how those everyday actions might not be the everyday actions for other people. So what we can do about those.
Yeah, and we also have the information about it. It's like we can't ignore it. Like it's that responsibility. It's like you can't claim ignorance anymore. I think it's a bit of a cop-out.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think this is the thing that I struggle with the most in terms of this industry, working in this industry and being so passionate about it, is how do you get people on board without just offending everyone and, you know, having no friends. Because
Yeah.
you could go around, especially someone in my position who can be like, oh, my carbon footprint's so low. Look, I only take cocaine out once a year. Like, it's so easy for me to lose perspective and be like, why aren't you recycling? Or why are you eating this and that? And I think, how do we speed up the process of awareness and education without, you know, really kind of shattering people's day to day? And I think that's
people running away from you when they see you in the
yeah.
street.
Oh, there he is,
They
across the
can't.
road. Yeah, it's. I think that's really, it's really tricky, because I think everyone in the industry is so passionate about it for that reason. It's like, how do we comfortably get people on board, but at the same time, you know, we don't have much time to be comfortable about it anymore. So I think that is the crux of the difficult nature of climate change, is that you can't see it, so it's not in your everyday today.
I'm going to ask you a really controversial question here.
I love controversial questions.
Okay. So what do you say to the people that don't actually believe that climate change exists?
I think I've had this conversation, I've had this debate at parties before, and I think that at this point, as someone, you know, who works in this, the science is very much there, and it's only quite a small percentage of people who are in that camp. But that being said, those people who are firmly like, it's not a thing, they're not really the ones that need to be convinced. It's the people who are kind of on the fence, or just sitting there being like, I want to do something, but I don't know where to start. Those are the people that we need to get on board. There's a great study called the 6 America Study, which talks about exactly this. And I always like to liken that to what's called diffusion theory, where it's like, let's say the iPhone's a great example. When the iPhone first came out, people were like, this will never take off. But there were a bunch of people who jumped on board early, and those are the people that educate others, and then, you know, the wheels start turning from there. So it's kind of about getting people on board who are kind of on the fence. In terms of what I say to people who are flat out like, it's not a thing, I usually just say, you know, look, I think that the science is there, and maybe point them to, you know, a few areas to look at, because I don't have that. I need to hold myself back at this point. There's no point in me yelling and getting into an argument. You know, I think people come, especially people who are kind of firmly in that mindset, they'll come to those things at their own time, hopefully.
Yeah. And it was interesting what you said about like with change happening. I can't remember the exact percentage, but Sarah Wilson spoke about it around the time of one big movement. I can't remember like if it was environmentally based or not, but once you have a certain percentage of the population invested in something and who believe, the momentum just follows. So I think it'd be really cool to watch this space, like environmental sustainability, and see where we go in the next 10 years. Because one thing, like, I'm really stoked when I look around and see so many Teslas. And I know there's probably an impact of making them, but that's just less carbon being emitted. And so like there's all these little things happening, like, you know, the fact that Climate Clever is a company that is working with all these businesses, like, would that have been the case 20 years ago? Like, it's cool to see these things. Yeah.
It's like we're planting the infrastructure for big change to happen, and I suppose this is the beginning, and, you know, one small step at a time is, you know, and then that'll make that, you know, that great big change.
100%. And like with the Teslas, like, they've made it trendy. It's like rich guys and rich ladies who just don't care about the environment, like, I want to drive fast cars and I don't want to go to the petrol station, I just want to plug in at home. And then, you know, you essentially like trick a whole group of people into being more environmentally conscious. I know that environmental cars have their whole, you know, I can talk about that all day, but I think that's a great example. And it's just about kind of changing the conversation. And I've read that study as well. I can't remember what it's called, but once you get a big enough percentage people looking at it, then, you know.
So I wonder how many Teslas we need to get everyone in to have that change.
Yeah, well, hopefully, like, electric cars just continue to come down in price, and then you know, that they definitely have.
How much is
one?
Sorry, how much is one?
So I mean, a Tesla depends on which state you're in, and depends on the rebates and things, but when they first came out, they were well over $100,000. Now you can get, I was watching a video on YouTube where, so I think a new Tesla Model 3, which is the base model, goes for around 60,000. But then if you get some rebates, then comes down. But in terms of the running costs, so my old car, Honda Jazz, for example, is a good example. I did the calculations once, and the running costs of that car, which is a very small car, by the way, compared to the running costs of a Tesla Model 3, granted the upfront cost is a lot more, was less than the Honda Jazz. And that's because you have barely any servicing, there's no oil, you don't use the brakes as much, you can charge at home, it's a lot cheaper. It's really just insurance that is quite expensive. But in terms of, if you have the money up front, it's kind of a no-brainer financially, let alone thinking about the environment.
That's so cool.
It's only going to get better.
One day I'll have a Tesla.
One day.
It'll be my next car.
Yeah, I think, no, but the cool thing is that literally it will be, hopefully in the next 5 years, electric vehicles might be far more accessible and affordable for the general population. And we can begin, like, that shift can begin to occur.
I think they will, and especially with automated vehicles. And there's a rumor that Tesla and Toyota are working on a very affordable electric car, like more of a city-based car. Yeah, I think we're going to see a big shift, especially with even Australia, that we're so behind with electric vehicles. Even we have got a decent infrastructure, and we have, you know, access to these cars. So, you know, I think it's a matter of time. And while electric cars, I wouldn't say they're the savior to our problems. I think they definitely have a very important role to play in the movement to a clean world.
Yeah.
Hey, I Googled the carbon footprint, and America, the average is 16 tons per person.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
That is a lot.
I think there was another interesting statistic I saw. I think it's around Earth Day or World Day. It's like the day each year in Australia when we've actually like emitted as much carbon that we can cancel out. And it's like, unfortunately, we only make it through about halfway through the year, and we've already hit our emissions target. Yeah. So it'd be cool to, when that number begins to reduce as well.
Yeah, there's different names for it. I think it's called like Overshoot Day. I think globally, yeah, it's similar. It's like usually around August we hit it. So yeah, we really need to kind of reassess how we look at our resources.
And like what you work with, I suppose you work with schools and students quite often. Like, how does that shift your perspective around like how we are as a general population or Australians moving towards like living more harmoniously with the environment?
I really see a diverse group of kids. You can talk to schools in every state and different schools, different suburbs, different incomes. And it's really interesting to see that. I mean, I think in my experience, the younger kids are super clued in. Like the primary school kids, they know so much. And, you know, I used to teach year 12s, for example, and they were clued in a lot of stuff, but a lot of things that they didn't know. And it's really interesting to see, I don't like the term gaps in knowledge, but let's just use that for now. Like some, you know, the year 12s didn't know some things that the young kids knew and vice versa. And I think one great thing is you see a lot of these kids are really inspired and they're super passionate. They're like, this is my thing, you know, the environment, this is what I really want to help. The flip side of that is I think the kids now growing up, especially with TikTok and all these different media streams, they're almost over-informed in the sense that it'd be so stressful. Like I used to always preface every term I was working as an assistant educator, I would always be like, now guys, eco-anxiety is a very real thing. And they'd always be like, ha, ha, ha. But it's like a few weeks in, you'd always have a few kids like, okay, now I'm actually like quite nervous about this whole situation. And I think it's about managing, I think, hope and fear as a, you know, as someone who works with the kids, and then also how I, you know, talk to the teachers as well. it's something to be very conscious of, that these kids have so many great ideas and they're so inspired, but also to manage their anxiety around that as well. Because I was really anxious as growing up about it, and I wasn't nearly as formed as these kids are now. So I think it's super important to be aware of that as well.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced like a bit of eco anxiety myself, like at times, and you're just like, oh my gosh, because we live in the age of information. Like we have access to so much information. So yeah, it's good that I suppose you make the kids aware of that and students aware of that, because that always helps.
Yeah, totally.
And so sustainably Vandy, so do you want to tell us a bit about that? Like, what's your vision for it moving forward? It's like a blog at this stage. I kind of had a look around the other day. But yeah, please.
Yeah, so, oh, sorry, I think my internet's lagging a bit. Okay, that's better. Yeah, I mean, basically, I kind of, it's still in its early phases now, but I kind of wanted to create a platform where I've been so fortunate to learn so much over the last few years, and just have something to basically accelerate people's education. So if people are interested, there's a place they can go and learn really quickly. They don't need to do a huge science, paper research session. They can just be like, I'm interested in reducing waste. What can I do? I'm interested in, reducing my electricity use. What do I need to do? And just quick, easy tips, basically. I think I'm still kind of working out what medium it really is going to fit into the most, because I love talking to people and I also love writing as well. So, I think there's quite a few areas that it could, and quite a few directions it could go in. But the crux is basically, being the middleman, getting the information from scientists and from, people who are very much in the space to, your average researcher and consumer as quickly as possible.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I think that's like the cool thing. If you can be that communicator of science and then bring it to people in a more understandable way so they can connect with it.
Exactly. Just helping people digest information, because sometimes it's super overwhelming. I mean, plastics and recycling is a great example. Like, people often ask me, oh, there's little triangles on the bottom. Like, what does that mean? And what does my council take? And Tetra Paks, what are they? And it's like so confusing. So I think just finding a way to, really streamline the information for people. Because as I said before, everyone is time poor. And it's like, we can only commit ourselves to so many things and everyone wants to do the right thing. How can you do this in a very quick and efficient manner? So, you can feel good about yourself and that you're doing the right thing with the time that you've got.
It'd be cool, an idea to do like, I suppose, like a little cheat sheet of how to get started. So then it's like not overwhelming to people that, don't have time to, even read a blog. If they've got like a quick, even like a YouTube video or something, and yeah, like a little visual that they can read and see just to get started. That'd be really, I think, really valuable.
Absolutely. I've been working on something exactly like that for a while. Like, I've got like a home starter kit, like draft thing going, but also I've been trying to like peel it back even more than that to something, like the running title is like the Fab Five, something that's like, what is like the 5 easiest things that you can do to reduce your impact the most? So you can basically tick these off in a day, or you could tick them off, in a year, but regardless, they're super easy. So like something like composting, even though it has a huge impact, super big undertaking for a lot of people, especially if you're like, oh, it smells bad and I don't want worms and yuck. Like, a lot of people are just not going to go down that path, which is totally fine. There's other things they can do, like, switch your energy provider to a green energy plan. Takes 10 minutes, probably arguably one of the biggest impacts you can have.
Yeah, how would someone go about doing that? Because I have often thought about that, but then I get interrupted and get, again, time poor. So if it's that simple, how would I go about, or how would everyone, not just me, go about doing it to have that really big impact that you mentioned?
For sure. So there's two arms to this. One, a lot of people might be like, oh, I want to switch energy providers to like a green energy provider, and that's totally an option. For example, I'm with Amber Electric, and their basic plan, all the energy consumed is carbon neutral. Or the plan I'm on, everything's green energy, which means it all comes from renewable sources, wind turbines, hydropower, all that kind of thing. So there's that option. But the even easier option is just to contact your provider, let's say with AGL, and you're just on a regular plan, call them up and say, hey, can I switch to your 100% green power renewable plan? And they'll go, sure. And that's done. You can probably do it through your energy provider portal, like on your web browser. But
cool.
it should be pretty easy to do.
I'm going to do that this week. Again, another accountability.
Yeah, I think I need to do that too, actually. That was another one, like my partner got me onto, just like switching your super to super that only invests in like, I suppose responsible companies that support green energy, renewable energy, etc. Yeah,
100%. Like, switching your super to something like Future Super or Australian Ethical is another massive thing that will have a massive impact. I will preface, I'm not a financial advisor, but check your finances before doing things. Same with the green power.
Yeah. Please consult someone else.
Yeah. Same with the green power. It will cost you a little bit more, but my thoughts always, one, it encourages you to get your energy usage down, which is good for everyone. But also, if it's a couple of extra bucks, like a year overall, just to save the world, I don't think that's too much. Think of it as an investment.
Yeah. I like to justify like
it's like the organic. It's like the organic options, like organic veggies is sometimes a little bit more expensive, but they're better for you. So using that analogy for energy.
Exactly. And it's just, there's so many ways that you can save the money somewhere else. So like, let's say if you switch to a green energy provider, it costs you an extra, let's say your medium usage, maybe it costs you an extra $150 a year. I'm sure you can find that somewhere else, whether it's cutting out coffee or, cutting out a few different things that might not be super necessary, then, you'll easily have those savings.
Yeah, I did one of those, I did a budget a couple of years ago and was like, where's all my money? Like, where's my money go? And then I realized I was buying 2 coffees a day, and that's $3,000 a year. It's like, whoa, okay. So now I cut down to one a day bought.
And there's $1,500 savings. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. And then I can, pay a little bit more in my energy bill.
Exactly.
Because I'm going to save the world.
That's the way. And now we all feel good about ourselves. That's what we want.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, you can definitely find the money there if it's important to you. And I think, everyone can prioritize
this
that.
Is just more evidence that I need to fast track this Fab 5 idea.
Oh
yes,
we'd love to pass that on and even just involve that on our social platforms, because again, it's just more people talking about it, the better.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Awesome.
I want to know how to measure my carbon footprint.
Well, Danny, it just so happens you've got someone on the call who works at a tech startup who can help you with such things.
Amazing. Because I'm very I like to have tangible visuals. So if I can see what I'm doing and get see how I can reduce it, then it's a big motivator. So this is exciting.
Definitely. We'll get you signed up to Climate Club ASAP.
Oh, amazing. Woohoo.
They're going to be so happy with this. They'll be like, oh, you plugged us so well.
Yeah, no, you really have.
You deserve a raise.
Yeah, your words, not mine, but yes, I agree.
Yes, exactly. Hey, I'll sign off on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in your ideal world with people actioning responsible environmental choices and stuff, where would you like to see our country or society or our community move in the space of environment and sustainability?
Ooh, As in how we're going to get there or what it's going to look like?
Either. I'd love to see, like, I'd love to hear what you think it would look like, or what you'd like it to look like. How we get there would be cool as well.
I think a lot of these things come back to community. I think we're always, humans long to be in communities, whether they're small or large. And I think the more that we move towards a sustainable future, I think we're going to be forced, and I don't think it's a bad thing, to be more communal, like shopping locally, whether that's just your everyday stuff, supporting a local farmer or a farmer's market, all these kinds of things. Sharing power, once microgrids and energy trading becomes a thing, you'll know people about that, knowing your neighbors. Like a borrowing community is something that I think we're all in the mindset of, I just got a new TV and I don't have this proper screwdriver to mount it to the wall. I'm just going to go buy one. It's like, well, if we all knew our neighbors, we could just borrow one because they probably have one. Like, I don't own a drill and I borrow Matt and Dave's drill next door all the time. So I think I foresee a more communal world where, we're sharing everything. And I think, I would hope that once we kind of have more of a handle on the environmental crisis, that it will free up time for us to look after ourselves more, or perhaps it's even the other way around. It's like, once we learn to, I think, listen to our bodies more, you kind of have that skill to then kind of think about, okay, well, I know how to look after myself. Now I need to start thinking about how to look after my community and how to look after the broader community and the planet as a whole. I think I'm not sure which order it is in, because I think some people come to these things in different ways, but yeah, whichever way you do come into it, kind of being like, okay, I'm going to look after the next step and, look after my community.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I suppose, like, I've noticed you mentioned a couple of times, like in the interview, like it was first, like your journey began first looking after yourself, and then and I suppose even from like a neurological perspective and how the brain works, like once you feel safe and you're out of your reptilian brain, you can then engage a higher order and critical thinking and think a bit beyond yourself. So perhaps it is like, as a society, it's us learning to look after ourselves first, and then realize we're actually all little tiny little organisms on this bigger organism called world Earth. And yeah, it's like, I sometimes think about that. Like, it's interesting. I feel we maybe have disconnected from the fact that we're all a part of the earth. So like when we do something positive to look after the earth, it benefits everyone.
Yeah,
it is. It's everyone's connected and we're all connected. Even like I had this thought the other day where it's like, the sun shines, the sun produces light through the trees, we breathe in the oxygen, we emit carbon dioxide, so we're all interconnected, so we're all one.
100%.
So it's like,
yeah, it's interesting. We need, like, I think humans need perspective shifts on a lot of things, and I think we all know someone that doesn't look after even if it's just their health, like let's say they eat a lot of junk food or something. We all know someone like, I really want to, how do I need to do I say, and it's like, it's almost the same with the planet. It's like, well, how do we, I keep coming back to this word fast track, how do we fast track these things? Because in the same way that you want your friend to be healthy and live a long time, you want the earth to be around a long time, so if you decide to have a family, or future generations can have the same access to the planet as we have. That's always been kind of one of the driving factors in my mind, was if I ever did decide to have kids, they will ask one day, they'll be like, what did you do? Like, what did you do when the world was in crisis? And I just remember thinking, I couldn't imagine saying, oh yeah, I just didn't really bother. Like, I just kind of went to work and, didn't really think about it, because the kid would be like, what? Like, what were you thinking? And that's always been something that's, to me, has been like, wow, you know, think about that in the future. You know, that's really going to hopefully, you know, make people think about, well, you know, we'll be long gone, but, you know, all these kids will have to deal with what we leave behind.
And we always ask this question to our guests is, what is the life legacy that you do want to leave behind? And it's really inspiring that you've already started thinking about what you're going to tell your future kids about what what you did, what contribution that you did. So if you could sum up in a couple of sentences, what you want your life legacy to be, what you want your kids to remember you, or your future kids to remember you by.
100%. I think it's pretty simple, actually. I think I want people to, I guess my legacy to be, he did the absolute most he could for what he was passionate about. And for me, that's the environment. Like, I want to, you know, give it my all with absolutely everything in every area. I don't expect anyone to do the same. I just want to inspire people to do as much as they can. So to have the biggest impact possible, in terms of, I guess, reducing my impact. So maybe that's not it. Maybe it's reducing my impact as much as possible to inspire others, I think would be how I would like to sum up my legacy.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Beautiful.
Sweet. And I suppose, like, just because we do like cover a lot of health and wellness and stuff. Oh, we lost Danny for a little bit. Like, what do you, because it's, you know, it's a lot, it must, like, eco-anxiety is a real thing as well. Like, do you have any practices you do for yourself to like stay on top of your own health, your mental well-being, physical well-being?
Oh, so many practices. So as I said, you know, big on the healthy eating, try to, you know, keep the sugar and all the bad stuff to a minimum. Try to go to the gym, you know, at least 5 times a week. I was at one point meditating daily. I have to admit that I've kind of haven't been as good with that, but you know, I try to do some meditations where I can. I really find yoga, in particular restorative yoga, really, really helpful, which is what my partner Gab does. And acupuncture, super useful, kind of like maintaining you know, stress levels and things like that. I know you guys are big Dr. Joe Dispenza and Wim Hof fans, which I am also a fan of.
Yes, you can come on again.
I'd love to. I was listening to your intro episode before. I was like, oh, we've already got so much in common. This is great.
Yeah. Just on a side note of acupuncture, oh my God, I love it. I swear by acupuncture. It's just, I think everyone should get it.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, because I think in China, like, you get free acupuncture as a part of your their version of Medicare, because it's all about prevention and wellness, not sickness.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I might be making that up, but I feel like I read that somewhere.
I just think there's so many great areas that, like, the different parts of the world, the way we look after ourselves and wellness overlap. Like, it's not one or the other, I think. I think there's some great things you can take from all of them. I just find it so great for you know, just kind of relaxing and chilling out. And I have people who swear by it for like injuries and stuff as well. So, you know, it's just kind of not a one note modality. It's, yeah, I love it.
I had this experience a couple of weeks ago. Like, I had been going to doctors, like asking, like, I'd noticed that my body just started holding on to fluid, and like I couldn't fix it. Like, I was getting tests. I was like, something's wrong. Like, and all the doctors were like, no, your tests are fine. And I went off the cuff to this new acupuncturist that I got, Alan Jansen, bloody legend. And he said to me, before I'd even said anything to me, he did a consult, and he's like, your fluid metabolism isn't working. And I was like, oh my God, like, it just gave me hope. And I did a few acupuncture sessions, and then all the fluid just like left my body. It was just something was out of whack that modern medicine couldn't pick up on. Like, I wasn't sick, but I know my body, and I know it wasn't working properly as efficiently as it was. And I was just blown away by the skill set and the ability to just use acupuncture to do that, and him to know that something was wrong. So
yeah, it's so interesting. Like they know so much, and it's like, oh, your liver isn't great with this thing. It's like, yeah, it definitely isn't. And it's like you hold stagnation here, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, just amazing. Absolutely love it.
Mm.
Yeah, we definitely live in a cool time where like we get to see this like modern medicine meets more alternative health practices, and like we're very lucky we get to kind of reap the best of both worlds.
Mm.
Yeah,
East meets
absolutely.
West.
East meets West, exactly.
Yeah.
Danny T, did you say that I was listening to the intro episode obviously beforehand.
Yeah.
Because you guys were listing off your 4 people that you wanted to have an interview with, or was that the 4 people you want to have dinner with? Well, I mean, very similar.
No, 4 people we wanted to interview with.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Because I noticed you said Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I was like, I have to tell Danny this, that I have interviewed him before.
I'm fangirling hard right now. Whoa, how? Tell me how, please. Oh, I want to know.
It was so many years ago. So this was in high school, and I was doing a film. I was doing for my art major work. I did a documentary called Perspective, and the whole concept was meant to be that people from all walks of life share very similar like core values. And my mum had always done a lot of Dr. Joe's work and had went to some of the workshops, and he just happened to be in Sydney, and she knew one of the managers or something, event managers or something, and she mentioned it in passing, like kind of as a joke, like, oh, would you want to be in my son's like short film? And he was like, sure. So I can send it to you. It's a horrendous documentary. It's not good, but he is in there.
That's so cool.
I went
just for all the listeners out there.
Sorry.
Danny T's, I said, just for all the listeners out there, Danny T's face is so smiling right now. It's like a big grin.
Yeah, it was funny, like, because I went to one of his courses when I went to visit my mum in the UK, and then went to one of the meditation courses in, I think it was Italy. And like I mentioned it to him, like this was probably maybe 4 years ago, and then high school was a lifetime ago. But I mentioned it to him when he was passing by. I was like, "Do you remember doing the interview?" He's like, "Yes, I remember. It was in the business center of my hotel." And I was like, "Oh man!" I was like, "I wish I could interview you again." Like I asked the dumbest questions for like who I was interviewing.
Yeah.
Well, how about we get you on as a guest host when we interview Joe Dispenza?
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. He'll be like, "Oh, interview round 2. Sounds good."
Yeah. That Luke's he has better questions from the initial interview.
I need to redeem myself.
Oh, that's so cool. What are his workshops like? Because I've been wanting to go to his week-long for so long, but obviously with like, COVID the last couple of years, things haven't gone to plan for everyone.
I'm not sure, because I think they've changed a lot now. Like I went to the beginner's course, which I don't even know if it's offered anymore, if it's like only online or like a pre-recorded one or something. But I really enjoyed it. Like I'm not the most advanced meditator. I do really enjoy it. And you're just kind of forced to kind of, meditate a bit longer and really kind of focus. And I think having that big group dynamic was really helpful. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I don't know if I could handle the advanced one, to be honest, because I know like my mum has been a facilitator for those, and she's like, it's hardcore. It's like getting up at 4 and meditating for ages, and like sometimes I don't know if they do this anymore, but they'd put like the brain scanners on people to see the the neural pathways changing and everything, which areas were firing. So though the advanced course I know is very hardcore, but it also sounds quite fun as well.
I believe that you could handle it.
I think I could. I think it was funny. Like I was on holiday with this is probably the same holiday with my mum, and we met this guy at one of the hotels who he was like the tour guide there, and we were chatting on one of the tours, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a keen meditator," and mum and him obviously talking about that. And then I was like, "Oh, I am as well." And he's like, "No, you're not." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You are way too talkative and annoying to be anyone who could meditate." I was like, "Oh, all right, well, I'll prove it." And he was like, "All right, we'll do a meditation tonight." I was like, "Cool." And I didn't know that he's like, "All right, so we'll do a 30-minute meditation in complete silence," which I've never done before. And that was completely different, but I got through it. And he was like, "Okay." I'm impressed. I was wrong.
Yeah. The first time you like sit in absolute silence, like when you're learning meditations, really confronting.
Yeah. I think there's definitely that misconception that it's like you sit there and you hear nothing. It's like, no, like you just the flow
hear
of
everything.
things coming, but it's like, yeah, exactly. You hear everything. You're like, oh, I know I need to do that. Shush.
Yeah, I went and did a Vipassana at the beginning of this year, or like in April this year, where it's the 10 days of silence, like where you're not even allowed to talk to anyone, and you do like 10 hours of meditating. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Like
you meditate for 10 hours a day, 10 days.
10 hours a day, yeah.
What?
And there was 3 hours of that 10 hours that you weren't allowed to actually move. So it was called like I forget what it was called, but like there was 3 meditations each day, which is an hour each. You had to sit cross-legged, and even if you felt pain in your body, you weren't allowed to move, because sometimes it can present as emotional pain, not actual physical pain. So you had to like work through it. So it's just like, it was intense. Like day 4, I was like crying. Oh, what's going on?
Oh, that is so hardcore. I was talking to someone once who was like about to go on one. He was like, I'm just so worried. He's like, my butt's gonna be so sore because you're sitting there meditating for so long. I was like, I hadn't thought about it. It's another kind of pain you're gonna have.
Yeah, you can have you've got pillows that you can sit on and everything, and but yeah, like I don't remember the last time I sat cross-legged for that amount of time. So it was, and I did no prep for it at all. I was like, oh sweet, I'll be fine, like, you know. And I didn't realize that, I thought it was like you contemplating meditation. So it was there like, you know, pondering about their life, pondering about your thoughts. But the first 4 days is you just paying attention to the top of your lip, and that was all you're allowed to focus on, the sensation of the air to your top lip for 4 days for 10 hours a day. And so I was just like, yeah, it was horrible, but it was good. Like I felt so amazing afterwards. It was really like life-changing in terms of realizing how loud your thoughts are when there's no stimulation, there's no, you know, input. It's all just you know, releasing. And so it was a good break, a good rest. Yeah,
I imagine even though there'd be some painful aspects, it'd be such a valuable experience. Like you'd learn so much about yourself.
Yeah, like you really start to break through all the stories, and like, because we all have these subtle subconscious like conversations we're having with ourselves without us even realizing. And one of the big things that came out of it is that like I had this real like mean girl that was constantly talking to me, and I like dialed down her voice, and it was a big realization, like, oh my God, like I'm really talking horribly to myself without even realizing. And it wasn't until like day 8 or day 9 that I really heard her out loud, and I was like, wow, I didn't know I was being this mean to myself. So it was a really beautiful thing to realize that, and I had a big, you know, emotional breakthrough around that, and I have such awareness around her now. And yeah,
congrats, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was really like mind opening and yeah, transformational.
Yeah, it's amazing the subconscious patterns we develop growing up, and then it's like when you realize, it's like, oh no, I need to undo some of these things.
Yeah, I know it is. It's like when I realized that I like all this stuff I was saying to myself, and it's like I wouldn't even say this stuff to anyone else. Like, why would I say this to myself? And so the power of the subconscious.
The cool thing is you can train that into like effective habits. Aristotle says like excellence is the sum of your habits, essentially. And it's cool, like it really, I feel, comes back to what you were saying, Luke, like all these environmental choices, if you really strip it back to its basic thing, it's just habits in our lives. So like, how can we just slowly tweak them to look after the world a little bit better?
Yeah, until it's just automatic and you just don't even think about it. And you're just like, oh yeah, I'm having an impact. Nice one.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, the compost, like the worms are happy, like.
Yeah.
And then you start to name all the worms and they become part of your life.
Exactly. And you're just like, and then people are talking about waste, and you take the bin out. Ugh, that's weird.
Yeah, I haven't taken the bin out since 1999.
Yeah.
That would be the dream.
Yeah, I know.
I had that thought before coming on today. I was like, was like, maybe I can like push it and be like, oh, I can like not take, like, how long can I go? How many years can you go not taking out? I was like, it'd be pretty hard.
Yeah.
I'd love to, because like I'll like, I want to have my little brag moment. Like we have a tiny little bin at home, and we probably only have to take that out. It's probably once a week now, but it's like Matt and I and the 2 dogs, and a lot of that is usually dog hair.
Yeah,
My vacuum. And
you can compost that.
Yeah, so I can compost the dog hair.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, that's so cool. And because like the dog poo, because we live in we do have like a little courtyard, but we make a point of buying compostable dog poo bags, and like at least like I do just put that in the bin. But I know you can. There's like systems you can buy, can't you, that break it down in the garden. I just don't know what my other unit members would feel about that.
Yeah, it can be done. You need like the right conditions. Like there's what's called a pet poo composter, and like it's kind of like a composter and a worm farm in the same thing, but it needs to be like in a good amount of light, and there needs to be like some kind of plants or trees nearby to like absorb all the nutrients. But it can be done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a bit harder. Like that is a great thing, a great point that we need infrastructure for, because it's like, where does all the poop go? It's like, I don't think about it, but there's a lot, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I just thought of a really another great initiative though. All the plastic poo bags that are around the council parks, like, are they compostable?
They are not compostable on the Gold Coast.
No,
but we could do something about that. So we could like, I was talking to Matt about this the other day, like, and it'd be good. Maybe we can keep each other accountable. Danny is like, just write a letter to the council and potentially start a petition and ask like, I feel a lot of other pet owners or even local residents might feel the same way.
Yeah, I think so. I would love to do that. Yeah,
like switching them to compostable. It's not a big
There's literally a great case study that pretty much exactly what you're talking about in South Australia. A bunch of residents were like, they got the bags put in, they were like, oh, this isn't good enough, like this is ridiculous. So they basically got funding from the council to start like a collection. So they had like 3 special green bins where people would bring the pet waste, and then they would get picked up by the council and like properly disposed of. So like essentially for that little pocket area, making the pet waste area completely zero. So yeah, like I highly recommend doing something like that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, because like even if we do get the biodegradable bags, those bags still go in the bin. So compostable bags.
And I like to think at least then, like at least when they do go to landfill, it has the potential to break down. It's not like a turd in a plastic bag. Yeah, it's like it's
where does it go?
I know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I kind of feel like we're cruising towards the end. Did you want to add anything else, Luke, about like climate clever or sustainably Vandy? Or
I don't think so. I think it hit all the kind of nails on the head. I think, like I said, just kind of, comes back to personal sustainability, look after yourself, and then learn to look after the environment around you. And switch your power to green power plan, and sign up to Climate Clever. We can chat on the phone. It'll be fun.
Yes. Awesome. We've got a couple of music questions, Danny?
Yeah, we have some little rapid fire questions at the end. I like mine to be like music inspired. I find it interesting to like find out what music people are into. What was the first album you ever bought?
Oh, well, I don't know if I can't remember the first one I ever bought. I remember the first one maybe I did buy. I think I bought it for my cousin. Does that count?
Yeah, that's fine.
I got off him, I think it was the 2002 Ministry of Sound album. And I remember just thinking like, he likes it and he's older than me and I like it. I must be so cool. Oh, I've still got a few of the tracks. Like, I don't think they're that good anymore, but it's still fun to listen to them.
I love Ministry of Sound albums. I used to love going to those Ministry of Sound parties.
Yeah, they're good. They're good mix of different tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the first live gig you went to?
Presets.
Oh, sick.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That was a fun time. That was with two guys from school. I remember just being like, why haven't I been going to these gigs for longer? Like, what have I been doing? Oh, because I'm not old enough, but whatever, that's fine.
And what's a song or an artist you're really vibing right now?
Oh, I really love the am I going to get it wrong? The Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars album. That's
Silk Sonic.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Just so good. Like, every track on the album is good. But it's funny, like on the plane to the Gold Coast a few weeks ago, me and my mate were comparing our Spotify, the 2021 in review.
Oh, the list?
Yeah. And like, he's like a super avid like music listener, and like I listen to a lot of music, but like my taste is super alternative. And it was like top genre, game soundtrack music. I was like, yep, that's me, just listening to those ambient vibes.
Yeah, I think with my it's like I teach yoga, my Discover Weekly gets hijacked by yoga music so much.
Oh, that's the same with my breathwork sessions. Like, all the music, I think I played one song like 200 times because I always use it in like the meditation in the session. I was like, wow, okay. Yeah. My favorite song.
Occupational hazard.
Yeah. So one other question I have for you is, if you could put a billboard anywhere in the world, where would you put it and what would your message be?
Anywhere. Oh man, that is a great question. Obviously something environmental, and I'm just trying to think of like foot traffic, or not even foot traffic, like something that would cause a big stir so everyone would see it. I know that someone recently, they put the billboards in Times Square about Australia and like our terrible, like we're not doing anything about the environment. There was like, you know, go down for like the hot weather and where they don't care about the planet, something like that. But where would I put it? Maybe just like some like massive thing on the Sydney Harbour Bridge, just so I could see it all the time. And it's just like, switch to green power now, something like that. Like,
yes, love it.
That's my thing, because it's so easy, and it's like, if everyone did it tomorrow, the companies would all be forced to really, push forward with renewable energy.
Have you seen Don't Look Up?
No, but it's on my list to watch.
Yeah, it's it just, I don't know, when we were talking about Teslas earlier and how like electric vehicles have become cool, and it's interesting that like people are making more environmentally conscious choices out of what's cool. I was wondering if that's what like Leonardo DiCaprio was trying to do with like this movie. Like, I don't know, it'd be interesting to see if we could shift our culture with that, and like incorporate that kind of like, how do you grab people's attention to get them invested?
Yeah, for sure. I need to watch it. I'm not super familiar what it's about, but I know that if you guys have seen 2040, the film that came out recently, what's his name, Damon something, Australian director, represent, and he basically kind of wanted to flip the whole climate change documentary vibe around from this like depressing, like you finish watching and you're like, oh, that sucks, like we're screwed, what are we going to do? And this documentary was really hopeful. The whole concept was, we have the technology to make the changes now, like, and here's all the examples, and like we can do it, and there's so many areas that we're gonna be okay, and people loved it for that. So I think that's the kind of thing that we need more of, to make it more hopeful and trendy and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's like why I really connect with war and waste as well. Like, presents a problem, but then a solution straight away. Like, this is actually what we can do and what people are doing about it.
Yeah, and it's not your traditional.
Important.
Yeah, it's not your traditional documentary. It's like funny. There's funny bits, and you're like, this makes it more palatable. It's not like facts and depression, and now I'm sad.
Because that's what, like, everyone is, I think when people just hear the problem, like, it can trigger that depression, or like it's too big for me to even do anything about. But if you can present them, this is the problem, but here's the solution, then people are going to be more inclined to, you know, to be invested in it and to make a change.
Totally. When it's so negative, like the brain just shuts down. It's like, no, I don't want to think about it. But if you provide a hopeful solution, it's like, yep, I'm up for it. I'm inspired, and they'll do it after this.
Like the top 5 to do.
Yeah, exactly. Coming soon.
We'll hold you accountable to that.
No, I that's exactly what I need.
Yeah, no, it's like, there you go, when you're like, someone's grilling me to get something done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I grilled Denny last week on her interview.
Yeah.
She's got action items and homework.
Yes, I do.
Nice. This is how we get better. This is how we get better.
Exactly. Helping each other to be better. That's right.
Exactly.
And to one last question, what is your favorite quote that you live by?
Oh, so many to choose from. Trying to think. I've got them up at work, like on my board. Favorite quote. I really like the one from Lord of the Rings, which Gandalf says to Frodo when they're like, he's trying to work out which path to go down in the first movie or the first book, and he said, what does he say? It's not up to us to decide what we wish should happen. It's up to us to decide what to do with the time that we're given. And I was like, 100%. You can't change what's happened. Like, that's that. You've just got to make use of your time that you have while you're around, which is super powerful in the movie because obviously you know what happens afterwards. But it's just about having impact with your life. I think and it's Lord of the Rings, and it's nerdy, and I'm nerdy, and it's great, and I love it.
We love nerdy.
Yeah. Welcome, you are one of us.
Yeah, exactly.
You have been knighted into this community.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Love community, and thanks so much for having me on this. This has been really, really fun.
Oh no, thanks so much for coming on. I've learned so much, and I've got homework I need to do, which I will report back to you.
Amazing.
I'm so much more inspired now as well, and motivated to do something, to actually take action and not just think and talk about it. So thank you. I'm really grateful from the bottom of my heart for you coming on and educating us about this.
You're most welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Well, I suppose we might chat with you down the track. That'd be cool. When Dr. Joe comes on, we'll make sure you're a guest host, of course.
I'll hold you to it.
Definitely.
I better brush up on those interview questions for him, though.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take it above the 18-year-old intellect level.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Cool.
Awesome.
See you later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Luke. Bye. If you loved what you heard today and want to hear more, then don't forget to head over to your chosen platform of choice and subscribe so you can hear more of It's Glow Time.